Welcome to another episode of the VRCade Podcast, a podcast for arcades by arcades. I'm IndieVR, your host, and my co-host over here is Mr. Chan. How are you, sir?
Hello, doing good. How about you,
Excellent.
Serge?
Yes, doing really well, today's guest, we have April from Escape to VR in Carlsbad, California. How are you doing, April?
Good to be here. Hello, everybody.
Thank you very much for coming on. How was your holiday season?
Oh, it was great. So busy, but you know, fun. It's
Yeah.
like the fun kind of busy where you're just like, going. Um, it was even busy for like a couple weeks after that too, because everybody's still off school, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just pretty jam-packed every day, which was fun, but busy.
Yeah. Did you get
Were you,
much? Sorry, John.
were you working the whole time then throughout the holidays?
I thankfully we closed Christmas Day, but
Yeah.
for like New Year's Eve, we had like a staff get together after
Nice.
hours. So we kind of made that a habit. We did that the year before as well. So I was kind of like I was working the day of, it was a Sunday. Um and then once like we closed, we kind of just like got catering and played through like midnight and all that. It was pretty fun. I got to invite like friends and family, and everybody kind of like gathered around to play VR all night, which is fun.
That sounds really cool.
uh yeah, it's a really fun tradition that we've kind of like started. Cuz like, the holidays are so busy, so it's nice
Yeah.
to just, you know, blow off like, yeah, we did it, end of the year. um But yeah, I was working like my normal kind of hours, probably a little bit more just because there's more bookings, so come in a little earlier here and there. But um, we were like, pretty busy.
And
Yeah.
how was it at the moment? How's everything going for January? Is it still quite busy?
um, it's busier than I thought it would be, but yeah, it definitely slowed down. There was a couple days where I was just, working on other stuff rather than having bookings come in, but the weekends have still been pretty busy. And even I've had like a couple busy like regular days of the week randomly. So, which is good. It's great.
Yeah. And what is your role at Escape to VR?
Yeah, so I'm mainly a manager. But I would say I also am like marketing.
Yeah.
So, if somebody asked me, I would say just manager, but whenever I have free time, I work on the marketing as well. So if you see a video on our Instagram, I probably made
Yeah.
it.
Very cool. And
Yeah.
when did you start with Escape to VR?
Yeah, I've been working there since May of 2022.
Hmm.
So coming up on 2 years here. Um, so not uh, I think I want to say it's hard to say when the business started because it was like very small, like starting. Um, but at our current location, we've been there since September of 2020. So I got in a couple years after that.
Yeah, and I think there was a slight pandemic on its way then. So,
little, little
Oh, was
bit.
there? I didn't see that. Must have missed it.
so I guess we can count 2021, I think, as a
It's
start
a
because
lot.
it's just the same for us. Right? We also started in like August or September of 2020. But then, 1 or 2 months later, everything just had to close down. And yeah, the real start was a year later.
Yeah. And like I've seen it get busier and busier over the last couple years too. So I can tell like it was just ramping up. Everybody was like kind of coming back to the world. So even in 2022, we still had like masks and stuff. And I mean, we sanitize the equipment anyway, so that's fine. But it's like doubly so. Some people would want me to like wipe the equipment down in front of them, which I get. It's fine.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's like a lot less now.
Yes. Cool. And how how did you start with the world of VR? So how did you get into Escape to VR, or were you part of the VR world before you even started?
Yeah, so I literally just found the job posting like on a job posting website. I looked at it and I was like, yeah, that's where I would want to work. I've always been into gaming. I have like every console. I still have like my old consoles too. I still have like my GameCube, my like N64, my PS1, like so I've been into gaming in general for a long time, like my whole life. Um, but so when I saw the job posting for Escape to VR, I was like, yeah, that's exactly where I want to be. Um, and like I basically applied and got the job like the
Nice.
next day. So that was cool.
Instead of a we called it a CV. What do you, resume? I think you call it, right?
Resume,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Did you take in all your consoles and go, yeah, look, this is my resume?
I mean, I had some tech support experience, which was really helpful. Basically, all through COVID, I was like a chat support person for a software company. So I had technical
Nice.
experience. Plus, like, I did put, like, hey, I like love gaming and all that. So I think that definitely helps. You know, if you're looking to work at a VR place, it doesn't hurt to have like a passion for gaming, right? Like, you can learn the technical stuff most likely, but having like a want to interact with gaming and watch it, you know, because
Hmm.
you're watching games all day. If you don't like that, then you're not going to have the best time, right? But I love
Yeah.
that. Straight up have seen the same game played like hundreds of times, and I still find like it interesting to watch, you know?
And was that your first VR experience? Did you have experience with VR before you went in, or?
Oh, yeah. So I was racking my brain trying to think of like the very first time I tried VR, and I'm pretty sure it was at this convention PlayStation used. I don't think they do it anymore because of COVID, but the PlayStation Experience convention.
Hmm.
I think it was 2016 that I went.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, and so they had the PSVR there. And I think it wasn't even out yet. It was like still like I can't really remember timeline wise, but it was like very like all the lines for the games were like hours and hours and hours long. So I think the first VR game I played was this Eve Online like
Oh yeah.
ship game. I can't really remember the name of it,
Eve
but it was
Online.
like
Yeah, I had
it was
that.
the
Yeah,
Eve. Yeah, it was Eve
yeah,
Online like adjacent, but it was for VR and you're like driving around in a ship. It was awesome. I remember just being like, this is the future.
yeah.
Like it felt so cool. I mean, they put you in this pod and everything too, so it's like the immersiveness. And then I think that same day played Gran Turismo VR, and they had like it was like the driving pod and stuff. And it was just like, okay, this is so cool. I can check my mirrors. Like I can actually like, you know, look at my mirror up here and everything. It was so cool. Um and then I ended up getting a PSVR. So that kind of like steamrolled a bit. Um, I think that was the first. I don't think I had tried VR before that.
Hmm.
Maybe a Beat Saber something, but if I did, it wasn't as impactful. So
And the Eve Online experience, I think that's a pretty advanced one, considering that there are, much more, yeah, more friendly VR games that you can start with. Didn't you feel any nausea or something like that? Was it
so
just smooth sailing from the beginning?
yeah, so I do usually get motion sick when I sit in VR. If I'm moving and my body's not moving,
Yeah.
I get kind of sick. I think with the first time I tried Eve, I think because we only played like 15 minutes because it's at a convention, right? So they kind
Hmm.
of have to set it might have been only been playing like 10-15 minutes. I don't remember getting super sick. And in the Grand Turismo game, I don't think I got super sick, which is strange because like we have a little car game. We do like dirt rally at our place, and if I even just setting it up, like testing that the pedals work, I'm like, okay, I'm done. Like
Yeah.
it gets me pretty sick. But like I don't remember getting super sick the first time. It might have just been too quick for my body to realize, you know? But yeah, free roam, I do great. That's like my
Yeah.
preferred way of playing.
What do you do for your kind of customers that experience motion sickness? Do you have, because I mean, we had the Preggy Pops guy last week, 2 weeks ago. What kind of remedies do you use?
So we have a couple things. So I would say it's a pretty rare that it happens at our place because we almost exclusively focus on free roam. So I would
Mhm.
say like 99.9% of people are completely fine, even if they've experienced VR like motion sickness before. They usually in free roam don't experience that. I will say we have like these little ginger chew candies, which is like good for motion sickness, so we do that. Sometimes I'll hand it to them like while they're in VR, like I'll unwrap the candy and hand it, if they're feeling sick right away. Sometimes they'll eat it before, sometimes after. Usually that's good enough for most people. The experiences aren't so long that most people who get sick are not able to play. And then we also have like if you book with us, the first 10 minutes are free basically. So if you make a booking with us and then you play for, that first 10 minutes and it's not doing well for you, then you're no charge to you basically. So I always tell people, even if you're not sure and you think that it might not go well for you, you should just try it out, book with us, try it for 10 minutes, and if it's not working, then it's totally free for you and you can just say you tried it and now you know what's going to happen. But that usually gets a lot of people into trying it that have had bad VR experiences
Yeah.
before. I think a lot of people have done mostly just sitting or standing VR. So free roam, they kind of just assume it's going to trigger something. Um, but I would say most of the time it's pretty good. Only probably a handful. Probably I can count on one hand how many times I've had to like stop, because people were getting sick. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's actually that usually works for us just based on how our place works.
Yeah. Do you see a lot of people say they get car sick and therefore they think they're going to be motion sick automatically? And is that usually the case?
I feel like people will say they get some sort of cars. I feel like most people say they compare it to like being on a boat,
Yeah.
like that kind of like motion sickness, rather than car. I would say, I don't know, maybe 80 or 90% of the time someone says that they get motion sick from something else, they don't in free roam VR.
Hmm.
So I would say it's actually pretty high percentage of people just because we almost exclusively focus on free roam. Um, I think that really helps. There's a couple of like action games we have where there's moving platforms and things and that can trigger it a little bit, but usually it doesn't last long enough for them to like actually feel, you know, too sick. So, um usually I can convince people to try even
Yeah.
if they think it's going to trigger something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something that piqued my interest because I think I never heard this one before. You mentioned that the first 10 minutes at your location is basically for free. So
Yeah.
do you get a lot of new customers that never experienced something like this compared to, customers that just come by regularly?
I would say so. Yeah, I don't think a ton of people necessarily see that the 10 minutes are going to be free. I think a lot of people come in that have never done VR before and they just want to try it.
Sure.
Not necessarily because we have that free 10 minutes. It's just more of a we saw that a lot of people who had motion sickness were like deciding not to book at all. And so we just kind of use that as an extra incentive. And it has helped. Like I think it does give people like an ease of mind for sure. But I think a lot of people don't take advantage of it as much as I think that they could.
Hmm.
But we do get like just in general a lot of people who've never tried VR before all the time because that's almost always the first question I ask is like, have you been here before? And a lot of people I've realized like haven't, or mostly it's like one of them has been to our place before, and they are like bringing their friends or family in, who has never tried VR before. And especially a lot of kids who have like never tried it before, because you're 9 years old. Where are you necessarily going to try it unless you have a friend with like a Quest? So I would say, yeah, we do get like a good amount of people who've never tried VR before. So it's pretty cool.
Really interesting. And what would you say is, let's say, a standard customer? So, on average, do you have more elderly people, or are they younger, more male or female? Do you see any tendencies there?
Yeah, so I would say for a regular, like every day, I would say it's mostly like adults. Um, so I would say from the like teenager to like 40s seems to be like the normal age range. Honest, I know it's like a huge age range, but most of the time it's like fully adult bookings, not but then, I guess it depends on the games too, because like escape rooms is what we focus on mostly, and I would say most of the time that's like gonna be fully adult people. And for gender, like it's kind of all there's not really like a trend that I see naturally. It seems to be any gender in that regard, which is cool. Everybody seems to enjoy VR. I would say like we do get a lot of like couples coming in for like date night and stuff for sure, which is cool. I think it's a really great idea for a date night. It's something different, and escape rooms especially is gonna like really test a lot of stuff, like your communication. So it's kind of fun because I get to be like kind of like a third party to a date. um, for sure though, like weekends are definitely like more families, and like birthday parties and stuff like that are mostly events are mostly kids. But I would say the everyday like average booking is mostly adults, which I think a lot of people seem surprised about. They just think it's for kids, I guess, but I would say on average the daily just regular booking is going to be fully adults. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And also the number of people in a group, would you say there are
Yeah.
more than six, or is that like the sweet spot for the escape room games?
I would say 4. I see a lot of 2 to 4.
Yeah.
We've had like recently a lot of groups of 6. 6 is as much as we can get in one arena because it's a 6 meter by 6 meter. So we kind of just keep it at 6, even though we could probably scoot a couple more in there. It gets a little dangerous.
Yeah.
So we just try to keep it at 6 for the one group. And then our other arena is just a 5 by 5 meter, so that one we can just do 5 people. Um, 6 sometimes for an escape room I think is too many cooks. Like there's just too much going on. There's always one person who doesn't really have much to do, so they kind of just touch everything, which can like ruin what other people are doing. I think 4 is like the sweet spot,
Yeah.
but I definitely get for action games like people wanting to come in with 6, because I've played a lot of our games with 6 people, and it is like super fun to have that many people around. It does get pretty tight though sometimes.
Yeah, especially for free roam games, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You
Yeah.
mentioned that you do like the marketing and social media and things like that. What do you find, or what has helped the most? What's been really good, successful for your kind of marketing and social media?
Yeah, I think the most successful stuff is when we show people playing, like people footage.
Hmm.
I did this one video for Halloween where I basically just grabbed a bunch of jump scare like screams from people, because we have like some horror games where I know exactly where they're gonna get scared, right? And so I'll film them right when the jump scares get about to happen. So like videos where you just see people like having fun with the headset on
Yes.
is usually does the best. A lot of people like to see what it looks like, and a lot of people just think it's really funny to watch people in VR. I guess I'm just so used to it. I'm just like, I don't know. looks like somebody's in VR. I don't think it's that funny, but like a lot of people think it's like so funny, which is great because it's like, okay, if you think that's funny, then I'm just gonna show you guys like a bunch of people screaming in VR. And basically like when you're just, it's kind of like a mystery moment because you're seeing them have fun and you're like, I wonder what it looks like, right? So then I feel like it kind of grabs people a bit more, especially like screams and stuff when people are getting scared. A lot of people like horror stuff. So,
Yes.
you know, videos like that where you're seeing people walk around and like a lot of people I think don't realize that it's free roam. Sometimes people book with us and they're like, oh, we're actually walking. And I was like, you didn't even know. Okay, great. So I try to make that like more obvious, like our
Mhm.
videos and stuff. I try to make it like, hey, you're really going to be walking around. This is what it looks like. Here's the whole room that you get to walk around in. And then like, you know, it's like lit up cool. We try to like have LEDs and we have like, you know, for tracking all these like symbols everywhere, but people just think it looks cool, you know? So I was like, it has like an added bonus. Um, so I think that's what usually does the best is when people are in stuff for sure.
Yeah. So I want to change the topic to the hardware. What kind of hardware
Yes.
do you guys use? Do you use different ones for different games, or how does it look?
Yeah. So are you talking like headsets or just everything?
Exactly. I mean, whatever you want to share, but
Yeah.
basically, yeah, the headsets. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So we use a number of different headsets. The main ones we use are the Vive Focus 3s. That's like our bread and butter and our main like big arena. And then we also use the Quest 3 for stuff in our back arena. It works really well. We were using Quest 2s before. When the Quest 3 came out, we kind of just swapped right over to the Quest 3s and they work great. We really like them. We wish that we could use them more actually because but with the streaming capabilities,
Mm.
it's not really quite there yet with the software. Um but yeah, so we use the Quest 3s, and then we also in that arena use the original Vive, and the Vive. We have one Vive Pro back there, um, so that's like main headset stuff. We also use some focuses in the back as well, but that's main hardware for the headsets. For since we do use a lot of PSVR, we have like 20 PCs probably in our little hovel.
Oh,
So for hardware on those, it's like an average. You're looking at like a 2070 average like graphics card. I think the lowest we're still using is a 1060. And it goes all the way to like a 3080, I believe we have for graphics
yeah.
card, and then all like i7 kind of a couple i5, but mostly i7 like CPUs and stuff like that. So we want to like we love doing like streaming and PSVR stuff. So um like with Rotten Apple specifically, we use the PSVR stuff and we like that. Um so it's we just want to like the best graphically you could do, and we try to have equipment that kind of reflects what you couldn't necessarily the average person can't have like a 2070 at home with a nice, you know, like all this like high tech stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So our hardware, we are always trying to like improve it and make sure that what they're seeing is like graphically what the best it can be. Since you know that's another way we can also like set ourselves apart from other VR places because not a lot of people do that. They kind of focus on like in headset kind of stuff. Which we do as well. Like all the Quest 3 stuff we do is just in headset because of the streaming not being there yet. But yeah, that's I would say
Yeah.
the main
But that
hardware stuff.
pretty much sets you apart from other ones, right? I mean, I don't think that many arcades swap to the Quest 3 at the moment. So
Yeah.
I think you guys will be one of the first. So
Yeah.
um, besides the arcade operational stuff, do the customers recognize any difference between the headsets? And do they think, oh, this one is really smart considered to one I used last year or whatever?
Right. Well, I would say the Quest 3 specifically, people are just
Yeah.
excited to see them. because they're so new. And so like kids especially, they know all the headsets, right?
Hmm.
Like most adults are just like whatever, put the headset on my head, but kids are like more plugged in to what's new and what's like out there. They don't recognize the Focus at all, but they just call it an Oculus. But the Quest 3, they're just happy to like try it, which is cool. I would say for the average person who doesn't know what they're looking at, the Focus 3 seems to be what people favor overall. And like just the other day, I put someone in a VR cave game and they were just standing in the lobby waiting for me to like get everybody in a headset, and they were just staring at their hands and they went, "This looks amazing." And they were just like looking at their hands like this, and they were like, "This is graphically just so cool." I was like, "That's awesome. It's just your hands, man. I love that." Um, so I think a lot of people think VR is not where it's at necessarily graphically.
Hmm.
They don't realize that because if you look at the average Quest game, it's not going to look necessarily the same as like something running streaming through a PC, and if we're doing uh Steam VR cave, escape room, it's all every headset's connected to its own PC, which is a lot of work for sure, but it's worth it because the fire looks amazing, the water looks like you could jump right in. You almost feel like in Pirate's Plague you can throw the items in the water and there's a big splashback after it, and it's like it just feels so real. We even had to put signs up that said like don't lean on stuff, please. Because it's
Yeah.
not real, but people just think it's so real. And they always laugh at me when I say don't lean on stuff because they're like, of course don't lean on stuff, but it happened, you know?
And it happens, right?
That
Yeah,
makes
for
some
sure.
great social media post, right? People thinking they can lean on stuff in VR.
I know. I have to try to catch people doing it more. I just record 100%.
Yeah, going back to what you said about the Quest 3, I've only spoken to a couple of arcades that have actually upgraded to the Quest 3.
Sure,
So
yeah.
there's not a lot of arcades that have upgraded that I've spoken to. So
Yeah, I would say the Quest 3 for us has been working really great. The things that we like about it are like the tracking is like incredibly good. It's like so improved. It's like compared to the Focus 3, I think the tracking is really great. And since we focus so much on free roam, if the tracking is bad, that can really like be a downer. I will say the Quest 2 also had really good tracking. I just noticed that with the 3, even like the hands, like you can put your hands like way back to your side here and it'll still see it for like a lot longer than other headsets will. So I do like really love that. It's just the straight like, with the PSVR stuff, we would be willing to replace our Focus 3s with Quest 3s if
hmm.
we could get the PSVR streaming to be consistent. The main problem with that we've seen is that when you connect, there is like a streaming capability, but when you like have the headset in sleep mode for even like a second, the boundary like resets. So that's not really feasible.
Hmm.
If we have to fix the boundary right before we put it on everyone's head, like that's a little too much work.
Yeah.
So hopefully that can be more streamlined in the future. I think it's just probably not, a lot of places don't do PSVR streaming, so I can understand like why the software isn't there yet. But yeah, generally the Quest 3 is it's just better than the Quest 2, right? It just has better stuff going for it, but like the operating system is pretty much the same. So like all the games that we had that worked for the Quest 2 just instantly worked for the Quest 3. We didn't have any issues really. So that's what's been really nice is that the architecture is like still pretty much the same.
Yes.
Yeah. And on the topic of the games, well, you mentioned that you guys offer escape room games the most, but
Yeah.
do you also have some other games? Do you have a let's say, a big selection of games or just a small one so that, it's not overwhelming for the customers? Yeah, how's your game
Yeah.
selection at your arcade?
Yeah, so we're Escape to VR, so we do focus on escape rooms. I do think that's like Honestly, I think it's the best way to get people into VR because people know what escape rooms are, right? Escape rooms have been around kind of booming in general for the last, like, I don't know, 5, 8 years, right? I feel like I've seen escape rooms, just regular escape rooms, like pop up everywhere. So people know what that is and know what to kind of expect a little bit. So, and like it's one button. So I would say that's our main focus is escape rooms, and that's definitely like some of our top selling stuff is our escape rooms. Um, so VR Cave is like our uh main license there for the escape rooms. We do have quite a few games, and I could definitely, it is definitely overwhelming. For some people, we offer probably like 30 plus different games, from like zombie shooting stuff to like Hero Zone, like laser tag, all that kind of stuff. Um, to help people with that, we made like a game selector like on our website, so you can just hit the big green button at the top, and then it'll just ask you a couple questions, and then it'll suggest stuff for you to play. So if people have like, FOMO, they don't want to like miss out on anything. I always just tell them, listen, you're gonna miss something, right? Like you can't play all 30 games at once. So use our game selector, pick what's gonna work for your age group, your like how many people you have. It's basically all it asks is like what are the age groups? How many people? Do you want an action game or an escape room? And then it'll suggest like based off of that. So that really helps narrow it down for people. Also, like a lot of people just will call or come in and they'll be like, "What do you like to do?" Right? They usually just ask for my opinion, or one of us who works there like our opinion. And so I usually just do the same thing. I just ask them those same kinds of questions, like, "What do you want to do?" Do you want to escape or do you want to shoot stuff? And that's usually like a easier way to narrow it down. But yeah, I can definitely, I think it's more fun to have more options in the long run because we do get like a lot of return people. So sometimes I'll send out an email of like, hey, we just added a new game, and all of our regulars will like come in for the next couple weeks, and like try the new thing. So I think it's fun to offer new stuff. And have more stuff than try to keep it small, because then you could possibly be, not offering something that somebody else would want.
Definitely. And you, as a veteran, do you have some preferred games? And what kind of games would they be? Also, escape room games, or do you think maybe you have some different kind of games that you like?
I personally love puzzle games in general. Like in my solo gaming stuff, I will choose a puzzle game. So escape rooms are definitely all of my favorite stuff. Like whenever somebody asks me, I'm like, you're not gonna like my answer, because I just love, like, sit me in a room and I'll just sit and try to solve puzzles like all day. I'll pick the hardest stuff. I just want to solve stuff. So yeah, I personally always like suggest like Time Travel Paradox is my absolute favorite that we have, escape room wise. I don't know if you guys have tried the VR Cave stuff, but it's just the best part of VR and puzzle gaming is the fact that VR can put you somewhere and you can all see something different, right? Even if you're in the same physical space. So I think that's like the best part of VR is that you can all be in the same place and see something completely different, and that can be the puzzle, you know. So Time Travel Paradox does that. We have a game, Chronosphere, that does that as well. And I just think that's like the coolest thing. Also, like, escaping from a dragon is so cool. Like you can't do that in a regular escape room. But I also do like, we have Arizona Sunshine, free roam. And I do really love, I mean, with the vests, it's like killer, we have the haptic vest. So you straight up, I've played that so many times, and every time I get attacked by a zombie from behind, I scream. Like, it doesn't. So, and then we also have a game, Kitchen Panic, where it's basically Overcooked in VR, and it's incredible. You're just in a kitchen, you've got orders. There's like a explosive barrel running through the kitchen that you have to avoid. There's maybe conveyor belts with the food on it that you have to like, and then you have to like chop and like cook together. And it really does. It's like a workout. Like you're running around a kitchen. It's crazy. So it's really fun.
I think I've only played one Escape VR game. And that was just
Hmm.
not even a full game. It was Alice when I went to Switzerland
Oh,
with Chon. But he
right,
he
right,
already
right.
knew he knows it like the back of his hand. So yeah, it was still
Got
really
it.
cool to be in there and just have you played Alice before?
I haven't played it.
Yeah,
No, I know what that is though.
but it's
Yeah.
just just the artwork and design of the levels looks so cool.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, I think a lot of people aren't expecting it to look so as beautiful as it is for an escape room, but you're like, yeah, that's like part of it. If you're a pirate on a ship, you're a pirate on a ship. We're giving you a hook for a hand and you're gonna kill other pirates with it. Like, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys also have the effects of seasonality at your arcade? Do you, let's say, now you had the holiday season and you mentioned that you guys were pretty busy. Is there now a time that everything slows down a little? Or, yeah, just,
Yeah, I would say it does affect us for sure. Like summer, you can tell just during the week is busier because kids are off school. People are like taking more time off in general. I think they're going on vacation. We get people from out of town that just they're looking in the area for things to do. So I see a
Hmm.
lot of more out of town people. I've even had people who are like, "Oh, I've played this game at home, but we looked up like." The other game we wanted to play and saw that you guys carried it and I was like, "Cool, yeah." I would say though, apparently last year February was our like one of our biggest months though. So I don't know. Like it's weird. Like I think it does affect us, but generally we do okay regardless. And I think it's just become busier and busier in general over the past couple years. So it does affect like the day to day, but generally overall, it doesn't seem to really affect too much. It's just kind of like whether it's all spread out over the week or if it's like, just all Saturday, all Sunday. So yeah, I'm expecting it to be a little bit slow maybe for the next couple weeks, but I think in February it'll probably pick up again, especially around Valentine's Day. I usually try to run some sort of deal or promotion marketing wise. So, if you want to sign up for our emails, you'll get that discount and try to promote, date night and Galentine's Day, if you want to get a bunch of girlfriends playing together. I think all of that is super fun. And I think maybe during the winter, even though we're in California and it doesn't get super cold, I think it's nice to pretend that you're somewhere else where it's not winter. So I think maybe people come in February for that reason too. It's I don't know, strange that that's like one of our biggest selling months, but
Yeah.
yeah, it affects us, but then it doesn't, in the same way.
Yeah.
very interesting. I think, especially for in our case, in the summer, we don't see that many customers. I think,
Hmm.
maybe it makes sense because everyone goes to holidays and to the sea or whatever. But interesting that you guys don't have this kind of seasonality, especially when I think of the haptic vests or whatever that you have to put on additionally when it's warm outside anyway.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
that's really
We
cool
we
to hear.
are we are kind of coastal, so we do get like a little coastal breeze and we'll keep the doors open. We have
Yeah,
air conditioning too, so that helps, but
sure.
usually we're just like, yeah, take off your sweater if you have one and the vest will warm you up. You'll warm yourself up, don't worry. Um but yeah, we're right by a mall. So that helps, if the mall is busy, we're probably busy. We're just like right across the street. And then we are also right near a couple of schools. So I think that also really helps. We're pretty centrally located. We're by two major freeways. So I think all of that helps. And California is a pretty big travel spot. So a lot of people will want to just come to the beach and then they'll be like, what else can we do? Right. So I think all of that kind of factors into summer being busier. Also just like a lot of summer birthdays, right? Like, and you can do a birthday on like a Wednesday, on your actual birthday rather than just sticking to a Saturdays where it's probably already booked up. So I think that also helps.
So you get a lot of walk-in kind of traffic as well?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, because we're by the mall. Also we have like an LED sign outside, so especially at night, we keep it pretty LED lights, cool. Everybody who walks in at night pretty much is like, "Oh, I always drive past here and I see all the lights and I wondered what you guys like I finally just decided to come in and see what it was," right? Like so sometimes they'll just see like a bunch of blue lights and wonder what that is in our LED like sign. Also we're in an old bank, so like our building that we're using, it was an old bank. So I think some people just want to see like what did this turn into? This used to be a bank years ago. Like what happened? And what else is cool about that is that we have the actual vault, like the bank
Nice.
vault. We have access to it. Like it's a real bank vault with a real bank vault door, and it's too small to like have an arena in, but we do have it converted to like our single player game. So when we have big events and we need some overflow, we have, like I said, Dirt Rally, we run like a car game. We have like the wheel and pedals and stuff. We don't have like a pod or anything, although we are thinking about that. And then we have another computer in there for like Beat Saber or whatever other kind of, thing you want to play single player in there. And a lot of people just want to see what the vault looks like. We've painted it and made it look like completely different, but we do use the old storage boxes as seats.
Oh, cool.
We have some of the big storage boxes, like the really, really big ones. We were like, we could move these, or we could put cushions on top of them, and then we kind of put foam on the outside, so you can't really even tell. But you're sitting basically on the door of the lockbox in there, so it's kind of cool. You can see we still have all of the small little lock boxes on one wall, so people can kind of see what a bank vault looks like. And it is a real bank vault door, and you really will get trapped in there if you close it on yourself. There's even like a little snorkel for air if you get trapped in there.
Have you ever had to like tell a little kid, if you don't start behaving, we're going to put you in the bank vault?
They would love that. I think they would prefer to be trapped in there. They would be like, cool. No, I haven't threatened that. Usually just telling them they have to be out of VR is a good enough threat.
Yes.
But yeah, that's I would say a good amount of walk-ins, especially on weekends, when the mall is super busy. Any day, anytimes the mall is busy, or there's like like we just had a marathon the weekend, like on a Sunday, there was a marathon that ended at like 2 p.m. So, where do they go after that? Sometimes people like will just be there to watch and they'll come in and play. So anytime there's an event at the mall, that always helps us with walk-ins too.
Yeah, great location. It sounds like it's, like you said, very central. A lot of people walking
Yeah.
by and a lot of signage. So doing
Yeah. We've been toying with other locations for a while, probably for a year, but like the mall is just such a good location for us. It really does like bring in so much business. It's cyclical, right? Like if we get business and then they go to like the bar after they play, there's like a couple bars over there. There's like a movie theater. There's a few like restaurants and things. So a lot of people will like come play with us and then go to the mall, and then vice versa. Like they'll go to the mall and then come play. So we kind of feed each other. It's a really good relationship, actually.
nice. And you mentioned you were toying with the idea of other locations. What are your plans for the future? Like apart from that?
Yeah, so we're gonna be at our bank location for at least the next couple of years. So we're now toying. We've knocked some walls down before. If anybody's been to our place, they've pretty much every month it looks different at our place. We're always like adding stuff, or we added a whole doorway that used to not exist just so that people can get to the bathrooms easier. Like we are not shy about like completely gutting our building. So right now we're toying with, I kind of mentioned to you offline, like on call, like that we were thinking about doing like a teleport arena. So we don't really have like all of the space to do a whole nother full arena on our bottom floor. So we're kind of thinking like, oh well, if we clean out this room and then knock a wall down, we'll have enough for at least like 4 people to play in a standing, game. So we're thinking maybe for events we can do that. And then we also have an upstairs that's just offices that used to be just bank offices. We would basically have to knock down one wall to get to the stairs because right now the only way to get to the stairs is to walk through one of the arenas. So we'd have to knock another wall down, and then we'd have to knock some walls down upstairs and all that. So that's maybe what we're gonna do in the future. We're kind of toying with, I don't know. We kind of go with the flow. So um, if we have an idea, we'll kind of just do it right then and there, if we can do it. So future, it's not looking like possibly we'll not in the immediate future have another location. I think that would be cool though. I think that's definitely in the far future. A next step is having another location for sure.
Excellent. Mr. Chan, do you have any further questions you would like to ask, sir?
I mean, we just were on the topic of the future for your arcade, so I was curious, do you also have your own ideas what the future of VR in general would look like, and maybe what you are looking for or wish for in VR?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's pretty clear free roam seems to be where everything is trending. So I would love to see just a lot more experiences tailored for that. I mean, that's what our business focuses on. And like you guys were saying last week in the podcast, like we focus on stuff that you can't just go home and play, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's really important to offer experiences that, because VR is becoming more popular in home, right? Like I have a lot of friends with a Quest 2. Everybody can kind of just pick up a headset now, especially the Quest 3 is out, so the Quest 2 is a lot more cheaper. So, being able to continuously offer stuff that you can't have at home, game-wise and space-wise, I think is pretty much where I see the future of VR going. I think hopefully I want to see more PSVR stuff because I think the quality is so much higher. So I would love to see more experiences focused on that as well. I mean, I think the in-headset stuff is still really cool. I mean, it's great that you can get so many things and just have one computer and like 6 headsets and you're good. But I think elevated wise, future wise, I would love to see a lot more stuff focused on that streaming capability stuff. Just because I think the more what people want is to feel like they are there. I think that's ultimately what a customer or a person in VR, just anybody who wants to play VR, is looking for. A real, like as real as possible. So like haptic floor, wind controls. I would love to see a lot more in the future for all the like 4D stuff. The more immersive, the better. Um, so I think that seems to be where the future of VR is going, especially free roam in general. So yeah, I think that's pretty much where I want to see it.
Yeah, really interesting. I would also say it's same for me to, offer more free roam games and even have more free roam games. I think Serge also mentioned this when you are playing a free roam game for the first time, you're just so in awe and everything is so immersive and you feel like you're part of this world. And I don't think that you can get the same feeling in standing VR games. So I also think that this, for me especially, would be, yeah, the best thing that you can have in the VR market when we have some more free roam games and also easier applications and easier setups and everything just
Yeah.
goes with it.
Yeah, I would say obviously tech wise, a lot of the stuff, because we don't use like a licensing platform, we use like just direct license to developer.
Yeah,
Tech wise, it could be a lot better, maybe a lot more streamlined. I think because the technology is so new for everything. Basically every developer we work with has a different way of doing it. So hopefully in the future, like with consoles just turning on and working, we can have that, for free roam VR, PC VR stuff. Right now it is pretty finicky, like to get stuff to work. We've kind of figured out a process, but I think everything is just so new. A lot of these games are just made by a few people, and so
Hmm.
they're just doing what works for them, which doesn't necessarily work for everyone. So in the future, I would hope that it's like you were saying, runs a lot smoother, works, and just like opens and works. But it's hard. It's a hard ask, right? Because like I know there's so many moving parts and so many different things that people need from each system. I also wanted to mention, I think accessory wise for VR, I would love to see more hand tracking stuff. I think not using controllers in the future would be really cool. I've seen like haptic gloves before. I haven't tried them, but I would love
Hmm.
to try that. Where basically we were saying like if we were going to make a VR game, we would love to have like an escape room where you have the glove, you know, controller, and when you pick something up, it basically feels like it's in your hand. I mean, what can be more immersive than that, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Obviously, tech wise, it exists, but it's not super there yet. So I would love to see accessories wise also like more stuff with like the Maverick gun that's come
Hmm.
out. Um, we are like toying with getting one, but like not a lot of stuff. It's not like compatible with a lot of stuff yet. So it's like, you know, how many games do we need to have that capability before we get one? But I think accessories, like people love like feeling like they're holding a gun and stuff. Like we
Yes.
have these little pistols. What are they? We haven't used them in a while
Unstuck.
because they're yeah. And like
Yeah.
people like love to feel like they're not holding a controller. So I think the more you can get with like hand tracking will just like the ease of access for that, like younger kids can then participate and older people. I mean, we have elderly people that come in. We actually like have a good group of people that come in that are like retirees and stuff. And they're always worried that they're not going to know what to do, and I'm like, usually it's just one button, so it's fine. But like if I can remove that, you know, completely and just be like, you just use your hands like you would, I think that would like bring even more people into VR, because I think the ease of use, a lot of people just think they hear VR and they think that it's too technical. Like, I'm not into gaming, and it's like, you don't have to be. That's
Yeah.
not the main focus, right?
Yeah. That's
So,
for sure. I think it's a Maverick Pro that's just come out, isn't it? Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm super stoked about that. I just want more things to be compatible. That would be, you know, the next step.
Yes. Well, April, thank you so much for coming on. It's
Yeah.
been great having you on, and it's really cool having different kind of people that work in arcades or own arcades, and just seeing everyone's different take on how they run things and what's worked and the thoughts in the future as well. So thank you very much for
Yeah.
coming on,
Thanks for having me. Thank you so much.
and thank you, Mr. Co-host John.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for this cool episode. It was really interesting again.
Yeah.
And definitely also few things that I can take with me, and hopefully also for everyone who is listening, and just get a few ideas for what they can also do better, maybe for their own arcade.
Yeah.
Excellent. Right, guys, thanks very much. And yeah, so it's Escape to VR in Carlsbad, California. Pay them a
Yep.
visit if you're local, and check out the setup. And we'll be back in 2 weeks' time with a arcade owner who also has a YouTube channel and does content creation revolving around gaming, but also a lot to do with his day-to-day running of his arcade, which is really interesting. So we'll catch you in 2 weeks' time. Thanks a lot for watching. See you in the next one. See you guys.